City. It's the home of the Mecca of college basketball, Madison Square Garden. Tonight, the Garden plays host to a high school reunion. Pittsburgh freshman DeJuan Blair was a high school star in Pittsburgh. His teammate was St. John's freshman DJ Kennedy. Together, they won a state championship in Pittsburgh. And tonight, for the first time since grade school, they play against each other. St. John's at Pittsburgh, next. From the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden in New York City, it's Big East Conference basketball. St. John's hosts Pittsburgh. The nationally ranked Panthers have had some trouble playing at the Garden. Against the Red Storm, they're 1-5 all time. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Garden. It's great to have you with us. Dave Ryan, Jim Spinarco alongside. Well, Jamie Dixon and Pitt enjoying another very good season at 15-3. Despite the fact, Jim, that two key players are out, that means players like Keith Benjamin have got to keep stepping up and keep doing a good job.
Well, what happens with injuries is you get the opportunity to step up, and Keith Benjamin is one who really has, especially over the last 6 games where he's shooting the ball at 57% from the floor and 47% from downtown. So obviously a guy who has really taken advantage of this opportunity for Pitt.
St. John's struggling a bit under Norm Roberts again this year, and you think about the game they played their last outing against West Virginia, came pretty close to upsetting the Mountaineers, a very good team in the Big East on the road. They'll need players like Justin Burrell to play well tonight if they're thinking upset of Pittsburgh.
Well, the leading scorer and rebounder for this team, and over the last 15 games, he's put up 6 double-doubles, so he's clearly a guy who can mix it up down deep, can shoot that 15-footer also, but really, against Pitt's good lineup in terms of rebounding, this is where Burrell really has to shine tonight.
Jim, this is the 100th year of St. John's basketball. Some of the all-time greats of the game have come through this program. Tonight, the latest version of the Red Storm takes on Pitt, trying to create some brand new memories. It's Big East Conference basketball from the Garden. The Panthers and the Red Storm coming your way next. Tonight's game is brought to you by Oppenheimer Funds, the right way to invest. By Red Lobster, try all your big favorites during the Big Seafood Festival right now at Red Lobster. By PNC, leading the way. And by Cooper Tires, don't give up a thing. Welcome back to the Big Apple. Beautiful night in New York City. And the St. John's fans excited to see their Red Storm take on Pittsburgh. Big East Conference basketball. First Garden game for the Johnnies since December 29th against Virginia Tech. They're 1-1 at the Garden this year. This is their first ever Big East game of this season at the Garden. Star Wars tonight, Jim. Sam Young having a great year for Jamie Dixon's team. Anthony Mason Jr. shaking off the effects of a high ankle sprain early in the season, really coming along now.
And a guy who really, Mason, has to help this team with his spot-up shooting selection. Good shot selection is important for him. But Sam Young, most improved player so far in this Big East, and really a great season so far to this point.
Starting lineups. Look at the big man in the middle. For St. John's, number 15, that's Delly Coker getting just his second career start. Key matchup head-to-head with DeJuan Blair, the fabulous freshman of Pittsburgh. He'll match up with Justin Burrell, Tim Higgins, John Gaffery, and Mike Stewart, the officials tonight. We saw Tim Higgins last night, that exciting Kentucky-Tennessee game in Lexington, won by the Wildcats. And here he is tonight, always busy.
Yep, great atmosphere last night he was talking about. And this game here, a start off. One of the things that St. John's has to be aware of, they know it. Pitt just comes and plays hard almost every single night.
Here comes Blair, trying to no-look pass to Young, who is streaking through the paint. And 11 to shoot for Pitt. Initial possession of the game. Jamie Dixon, 5th year as a Pitt head coach, first in Panther history to win 20 games his first 4 years, and twice already has been to the Sweet 16, including last year loss to UCLA. Here's Brown, long range 3. And Justin Burrell has the defensive glass for St. John.
You know, one of the things about Jamie Dixon since he's been coaching at Pitt as a head coach too, they've only lost back-to-back games 5 times under him, so that tells you after a loss he prepares them pretty well, and that's that point of them coming to play hard every single night.
Here's Eugene Lawrence, senior captain. Also Anthony Mason Jr. He's had a great career in the NBA, including several years here in New York. An Eastern Conference championship for the Knicks back in the 90s. DJ Kennedy the kick out, under 5 to shoot for Lawrence. Bounce it down low for Coker. Off the glass, can't find the range. And here comes Pitt. Blair runs the floor, and the freshman converts for two.
Boy, a great get out, too. A lot of times you want to see the big guy go straight down the middle of the floor. It's the quickest way to get underneath the basket.
An offensive foul is called against St. John's. Looks like Justin Burrell is the guilty party. There is Norm Roberts, fourth year at St. John's. Did bring them, Jim, to the Big East tournament for the first time since '03 last year with a winning season. As he told us today before the game, it's a building block process in Jamaica, Queens. It's going to take some time.
Oh, it really is. And I think, you know, Norm's a class act, a guy who will get the job done and just has to be patient. But he brought out a nice class. He's got a young team right now, and they're going to learn.
Leading scorer, Star Watch member. There is Young, had it swatted away by Mason Jr. Up in the rafters here at the Garden is the 93-94 Eastern Conference champion banner of the Knicks. His dad played on that team.
Great block from behind. Good timing in there to help his teammate out.
Here's Young, who's become very dangerous from long range. Little dribble drive. Burrell stops him out to Benjamin. Key injuries to the Panthers this year. Mike Cook, Levance Fields. Both are out. Fields may come back with a stress fracture of his foot. Cook is done for the year. So Benjamin has really stepped up. Under 5 to shoot. Blair baseline, can't get the roll. Mason Jr. has a rebound for the Johnnies.
And Lawrence has to make good decisions with the basketball. His play has been very good. Steady floor leader for St. John's.
The freshman Burrell, kick out for Mason Jr. from 10, gets a roll.
Nice decision there by Burrell. The understanding of the double team coming at him in the middle of the lane and releasing the basketball to a teammate.
Mason Jr., team's second leading scorer. So Jr. out of Memphis, Tennessee. 5 times he's led the Red Storm in scoring this year. Blair, right low block. He's big down there and uses the muscle and the girth.
Well, you had a muscle in the girth, get you that positioning early on, and it's almost a quick turn, shoot and turn, I should say, rather than a turn and shoot. He gets it off so quickly there and catches you off stride with it.
Third on the team in scoring, first in rebounding for DeJuan Blair. He's 6'7", 265, the freshman.
He's been piling up the early freshman awards, player of the week type honors.
Making a good run for Rookie of the Year in the conference. No question about that. Loose ball comes away to Benjamin. And here comes Pitt.
Yeah, he wants the ball again. There you go. A little slip pass, and there you go.
What a feed. And a cutting Brown would take advantage for the easy stuff. Gilbert Brown, another freshman for Pitt, has his first 2 of the night.
Yeah, Norm Roberts could not be happy with the St. John's defensive effort just then.
Or that turnover. Here's Gilbert Brown flying here.
Yeah, you take a look at the middle of the floor, though, more importantly for St. John's. How do you seal that up? Little double team coming down late on the wing. You know, when you double team on the wing like that 15 feet away, you better make sure the other side of your floor defensively collapses to the middle to protect, and there was none there.
Brown from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Floater there, Ronald Ramon. And a foul. Looks like it's against Eugene Lawrence. That'll be his first.
With the injuries, with Fields, etc., with Pittsburgh, Ramon has been asked by Jamie Dixon to switch a little bit back and forth. Little point guard, number 2. The last 6 games he's been playing the point. What that does, though, too, he's been handling the ball well and doing a good job there, but it doesn't free him up for his shot. So it's a little different look from a point guard perspective because you're constantly handling the ball.
There's Levance Fields. He is out. He says until Valentine's Day. You speak with Jamie Dixon, as we did this morning after the team's shoot-around. A couple there for Ramon, and he said, we're not going to put a date on it. Just not fair. We're thinking March. We hope by the Big East tournament he'll be healthy and ready to go. Another foul off the ball. It's against St. John's.
That's one of the things in this day and age in sports, too, Dave, is the fact that you have, you know, as soon as I roll my ankle, I say, well, I'm going to be out 5 weeks, and they pick a number. I often wonder how they know how long their injury is going to last, like a half hour after they do it.
They don't. That's the answer to that
right.
question.
Yeah, exactly.
Sean Evans in off the St. John's bench. Guilty party on that foul, his first. Red Storm struggling here offensively. That's been a big part of their demise so far in the conference, a 1-4 record. 1 win over Cincinnati at home. That was at Carnesecca Arena on the Jamaica Queens campus. Ramon from New York City, one of several Panthers who hail for the Big Apple. Here's Young. Can't hit that 3. Barella handed the rebound, tracks it down in the corner. Red Storm 1 for 3 from the floor, 3 turnovers. Lawrence trying to change that with a left. He will.
Well, nice little split there with the basketball. Nice delivery also at the end. Lost it just for a split second, too, but good regrouping by Lawrence to get that to go down, and that's what St. John's needs to do. Both of these teams need to test one another off the dribble, force the action, get some slices through the middle of the floor.
The senior captain from Brooklyn, played with Sebastian Telfair in high school at Lincoln High. Look at Blair, gets loose, and two more for DeJuan Blair, the freshman.
He's had some huge games earlier against the Hall. He went for 20 points, 15 rebounds, and so he can score, he can rebound.
Blocking foul there as Evans tries to go right by DeJuan Blair. 100th year of St. John's basketball. They celebrate that here in New York City. We will look at some outstanding St. John's Garden moments when we return. As we mentioned, this is the 100th year of St. John's basketball. On the right, the legend Louis Carnesecca, the man who succeeded him for 4 years at Jamaica Queens, Brian Mahoney, as head coach of the Johnnies. All season long, Champion Apparel will be showcasing the tradition and history of the Big East Conference. Tonight, we're going to have a special presentation counting down the top 3 all-time St. John's games here at the Garden that we put together. And Jimmy, let's take a look at this one. As we go back to January 21st, 2006, not too long ago, but quite a moment certainly for Lamont Hamilton, who had a big game as they were able to, with his 24 points, beat Pitt 55-50. Part of the domination they've had over the Pitt Panthers here at the Garden.
Yeah, some great moments with St. John's and with their, you know, you take a look at Louis Carnesecca a moment ago and Brian Mahoney with Carnesecca's number 526. I mean, it's just a terrific man. And as I always bring up, though, you see a jumper go down by Mason Jr. in the corner, who kind of rolled his ankle a little bit, it looks like. Brings back bad memories, though, for Louis with 1979. His St. John's team beat my Duke team twice that year. So other than that, I love Louis.
That's right. So that was number 3. We'll also have our top 2 St. John's moments at the Garden throughout our broadcast tonight, so stay tuned for those coming up. That's bad news if, in fact, Mason Jr. has hurt the ankle again. He rolled that earlier in the year and missed several games. Ramon pulls up short with a Bronx, New York native. He'll have some free throw.
Well, you're going to see him pop out, and does he land on somebody's foot? Maybe just a little, or does he roll it just a touch? But, you know, one of the things defensively there, when he had to come out from lower block area to the wing, it looked as if he moved okay to get to the wing area defensively. So we'll just keep an eye on him also.
Ramon has one more. Senior from here in New York City, had his jersey retired in high school at All Hallows High. Number 14, a native of the Dominican Republic, just like Orlando Antigua, an assistant coach. Some great Pitt players, Ricardo Greer among many who've come through that program. Larry Wright is in for the first time. Malik Booth will run the show offensively here for St. John's. And that's what Norm Roberts, Jim, told us this morning. He'll run a lot of guys in and out at this point of the year, trying to get a lot of experience for younger players like Booth. Right hand strips. Here comes Pitt.
Yeah, they just got to make sure they don't turn it over, because Pitt is a very fundamentally sound team.
Ramon buries a 3.
And that's what happens. You give up opportunities to Pitt. Ramon just likes to find himself some space. He likes to mix it up. It's difficult for him to play the 1 and the 2, but there you see his shooting ability, but he's left open.
His 5th all-time Pitt history in 3-point percentage. Burrell got 3. That's a 2-point jumper for Justin Burrell. First 2 of the night for him. St. John starts to warm up a bit offensively here after a slow start. That's what Coach Roberts said to us today. Cannot get off to a big deficit against a very good Pitt team. They're so solid defensively. Young gets Mason Jr. up in the air and draws a foul.
And Mason Jr. coming down that time again, and that time holding the knee area. But I tell you, he defensively, I think he went for that ball fake a little bit on that one, huh?
Wholesale. Hook, line, and sinker there for Mason Jr. Picks up the personal. And Sam Young, the junior from Clinton, Maryland, who's 4th in the Big East in scoring, has 1 more. Very quietly having a tremendous season.
His numbers are up. You know, he's averaging about 18 points a game this year. Last year was just about 7 points a game. So opportunities, and shooting at 52% this year versus 46. The rebounding is a little bit more than doubled. So quite an improvement for Young.
I'll see it. 3 double-doubles, 6 times over 20 points. Got to be considered the frontrunner for the most improved player in the conference. Booth on the move. He is quick. Freshman. Played at Christ the King High School, another New York City native. There's so many in this game. And he's fouled on the way to the basket. Watched him this morning, Jim, in the shoot-around. He can move. Yep. I mean, talk about lightning quick feet.
And we saw it just then, and the hesitation, too. So he can stop a little bit, delay, and then put it back into high gear on you also.
And from another tradition-laden high school. His coach there said Malik was the third best defender he ever saw in his many years of coaching. Behind some pretty big names. Here's Wright. Burrell. Good defense from behind. Wow. Biggs made that long pass to Young, and he came down awkwardly. As he tried to make the catch on the baseball pass, it's out of bounds.
Yeah, that was an awkward fall. You're absolutely right as he came down. It's thrown almost on the money. That's a great extension, but then that fall down, well, I happened to look over when he falls down right here, Dave. I kind of looked over at Jamie Dixon, and he had that look like, oh, brother, don't tell me. Please. And it's like he just looked over, and he didn't budge until he got off the floor, and then he turned around and made his substitution.
Young takes a seat next to his coach. Wanamaker comes in for the first time. Brad, he's a freshman from Philadelphia. He was a City Player of the Year there last season. And Young faces on the hardwood tonight, including Horn, who handles here. Paris Horn. Like just a sophomore. Team's best three-point threat. We've seen a lot of long-range shot tonight for either side so far. A lot of contact. As Malik Booth ran through some trouble, and he's fouled. So Wanamaker, a fellow freshman, picks up his first right off the bench. Didn't take long for him to get on the score sheet. Booth, the guard from Rosedale, New York. Here's Horn. Baseline, free. Too strong, though. And Biggs has a rebound off the Pitt bench. Kind of game Jim Pitt likes. Take the lead, clamp down offensively.
Exactly.
So well.
And then execute at the offensive end of the floor where they're not in a hurry. They'll run their sets, they'll run their screens, and they usually have more than 2 or 3 guys moving without the ball. Biggs
from 17, it's short. And Horn has the rebound. There's Horn, 6'3", 180, freshman. Larry Wright, not close. Evans, a rebound, weak side, way strong on the follow. Bodies everywhere, ball out of bounds. And Pitt gets it back. Sloppy play on each end right now.
Yeah, it sure is. And St. John's a quick shot. I don't know if Norm Roberts wants that one that quick in the set and the shot clock. I mean, you can always get that shot coming down the floor, pull up from long range and take your jumper. You got to test, you got to probe a little bit.
There's Thomas Yesalonis, makes his first appearance. He hadn't been starting much of the season out, though, as Deli Coker got a start for a little more post presence tonight. Pitt with DeJuan Blair does not have a big man in the middle. The tradition they had with Aaron Gray all those years, more than 7 feet tall, but Blair's held his own, to say the least. Great freshman this year.
And plus he's got those long arms, which makes him play a little bit bigger also.
7'2" wingspan, they say.
And he gets pretty good position down deep with that body, too. So it's all about positioning before the ball gets close to the passing area. Right now he's set up. There's an easy catch and delivery.
Juan Blair double teamed. Yesalonis all over him. He's near 6'11". Forces that sloppy pass, but he was out of bounds first, says Tim Higgins. Second turnover for Pitt. Early going here tonight. A lot of newcomers we talked about in this game, and certainly for St. John's. Booth has played. Burrell starts. Coker starting tonight. Evans has played a lot. And Horn and Kennedy are key members of the team.
Yep, they are. And with Norm Roberts, just got to give them the time. That's the whole thing. They're going to learn and make mistakes. There's no question about that. Young guys always do. Yep, little touch move.
Looks like Yesalonis on a moving pick there. That is his first. Pittsburgh looking good early here at the Garden where they struggled. 1-5 all time against the Johnnies at MSG. Right now, though, they're in control.
Chevy, best-selling cars and trucks in Pittsburgh for the last 9 years.
Well, Pittsburgh basketball fans had plenty to cheer about the last time the Panthers played in this building. It was in December against Duke. The upset win when Levance Fields hit a 3 near the buzzer to beat the Blue Devils in overtime. How about another great moment in Pitt basketball history?
Picked off by Miller, goes ahead, lanes on the other wing. He finds Send it in, Jerome!
Yeah! We're going to be a while.
And it was a while, certainly. Bill Raftery, Mike Gorman on the call. Who can forget that moment? I was in college, junior in college at Syracuse, watching that game on national TV. Paris Horn with the intercept and runs into an official on the far side. Sean Miller, current Xavier coach, had a great year with the Musketeers in the A-10. The assist to send it in, Jerome.
Send it in, Jerome, Billy Raftery. And I was in 8th grade, I think, at the time.
Before your Duke days.
Raf's going to let me know just about how old I was then and now. But it was a great call and a terrific moment.
Wow, Darrell Porter on that team. He's in the house here tonight, one of the Pitt administrative staff. Great player at Pittsburgh in his day.
And how about Mike Gorman? Did you hear his comment
Yeah.
to Davis? He said, oh, we're going to be here for a while. Always worried about getting out to get something to eat.
He's thinking about his next game, right? He's playing right.
Yeah, those two don't like to stick around too long.
Fitzgerald Fieldhouse before the Peterson Event Center went up years back. Great arena for them. 50 to shoot here for this Pitt team. Tyrell Big short on the jump hook. Here come the Red Storm.
I was on the Sixers team back in 1979-80 when Darryl Dawkins broke a couple.
Chocolate Thunder.
And after the first one, it was kind of fun to watch. And the second one, everybody looked at him and said, you know, we're going to be here an extra hour. And now the NBA has changed where they have to have an extra backboard in the building at all times. But here's that little spin move to the basket. He may get 4 or 5 shots at the line right now. He got swatted a few times going to the basket.
Brad Wanamaker, Jim, picks up his second personal. Off the Pitt bench, Mason Jr. has one more. As Lawrence comes back in for St. John's, Coach Roberts telling us this morning that he really feels that Mason Jr. may have put too much pressure on himself. Team struggling. He'd been out for several games with that high ankle sprain we told you about. And he comes back and try to take on too much of a load.
And one of the keys there is just really relaxing. It's hard to do sometimes when you've hit that point mentally and putting pressure on yourself. But you have to realize that you're going to get extra minutes. You're going to get the runs. Norm Roberts isn't the type who's going to take you out for one mistake. Make a couple here and there, he'd probably take you out. But you got to play through mistakes and learn how to do that. It's some growing pains involved with it too.
Sammy said for Eugene Lawrence, veteran players in this team trying to maybe take on too much. Hit that 5-point jumper when you're down by several down the stretch of a game. Young got free. There's a baseline shot from Sam Young.
And that's been one of the things with St. John's in the last couple of tight games. You talk to Norm Roberts and he'll say, a few plays here and there, and we're right in games and a chance to win. So that's lack of maturity, really.
Here's Burrell. 3, can't hit that 5-footer. That's the kind of shot they need to convert on. It's a good feed from Booth in the paint.
That's usually just one and done for Burrell right there. He just generally doesn't miss that shot.
Young, pump fake on Evans, goes for the reverse, blocked. Sean Evans from behind. Malik Booth a hand on it. Tim Higgins says Pitt keeps it with 21 to shoot. Each team coming off a loss in the Big East. Pittsburgh a close one, 3-pointer at Cincinnati last week. And St. John's really hung around with a very good West Virginia team in a tough place to play in Morgantown before falling. Young looking for that stroke from the right wing, has it. Good looking outside shot from Sam Young.
Yeah, nice little flare with it also. Just to flare yourself away from the double team there, free yourself up, and then be ready to catch it and shoot. It's a rhythm jump shot. He made it look easy.
Largest lead here for Pitt at 11. 6 points for Young. Mason Jr. One-on-one move. Young up high. Collects the defensive glass for Pitt.
Great effort there defensively, too, by Brown, not getting off his feet for that spin move. Whoa, can't do that.
Couple violations there.
Yeah, exactly. Pick your poison.
Yeah, that's a traveling violation on DeJuan Blair, the freshman. He's matching up with DJ Kennedy, who's just come back into the game. They were high school teammates as Lawrence.
Something's up with him, too, isn't there?
He didn't practice, Jim, earlier this week because of a knee bruise he suffered late in that West Virginia loss. Coach Roberts said to us this morning after the shoot-around they felt a lot better practice yesterday and did shoot-around today. They have a long game day shoot-around, about 90 minutes.
Bone bruise like that, boy, you go knee to knee again in a game like this. That'll ring you a little bit.
Really hurt. Terrell free, baseline, nice looking stroke.
Yeah, he's a good looking player too. I mean, that one, still trying to figure out how he missed that little 4-foot jump hook of his down there in the lane, because he's been knocking that back, but he can mix it up inside and outside.
He is too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, he's worried more about it than I am, probably.
So Kennedy's back out there. The high school teammates have been playing together since middle school. Again matching up. Juan Blair and DJ Kennedy. Young off on that long-range shot. Blair not close on the stick back. Here comes Mason Jr. at St. John's. Nice little hesitation move, and Kennedy gets the roll.
There's the benefit of being able to put the ball on the floor. Mason Jr. just that time continues to put it on the floor, and you got to test defenders, and he did a good job of testing not only one but two defenders from Pitt. And good work there. St. John's happy with that effort going down the floor.
They're coming to you from Madison Square Garden in New York. It's the 100th year of St. John's basketball. Pitt and St. John's. Dave, Jim, our entire crew with you from 34th and 7th. Manhattan, New York City. St. John's a very slow start, Jimmy, but they've come along to play much better offensively, and down just by 7. The game could be a lot worse right now for the Red Storm.
It sure could be, and one of the things I think St. John's is just going to continue to focus on is make sure at the defensive end, make sure you're alert, you're aware of the sets, and helping one another out defensively. The other part down at the offensive end is don't be in a panic to shoot the basketball. Be comfortable and take your shots when you have them.
A lot of prestige, the accolades piled up in the 100th anniversary of St. John's basketball. Norm Roberts grew up in Queens, not far from the campus. He was a great player at Queens College in his day, and now in his 4th year as head coach of his hometown school. Been a long time, though, since they've had greatness at St. John's. Like Jarvis Days, their last NCAA appearance. A lot of those wins vacated by the NCAA because of violations. Ramon in the corner. Got by his defender. Picked up loose ball down low. Blair has 2.
Blair just looks like he's having fun. He's always tracking the basketball, and he's always around it.
Mason Jr. answers on the other end.
And that's what St. John's needs, too. They need Mason Jr. just to be relaxed on the floor, take those good shots, because he will hit those 15-footers, and then he can combine those with the drives that we just saw a moment ago in the transition game.
He's got 8. Thought about a 3. Kept that pivot foot on the floor. Burrell picked up a foul. Blocking call, say the officials, although he wanted the charge. 7:47 to go, first half. Second foul on Burrell. 23-16 game. Panthers on the road have a lead on Norm Roberts' Red Storm.
I would recommend Triangle Tech to anyone who's looking to get into the carpentry field.
Triangle Tech graduates are hired to do important jobs, because when it comes to carpentry and construction, no one trains you like Triangle Tech.
St. John's, their head coach Norm Roberts in his 4th year down here to Pittsburgh Big East Conference play. And Jim, we spoke with Norm today about his 3 years at Illinois, 2nd round of the NCAA in the Sweet 16, the Elite 8. At Kansas, 1 year, Elite 8. 3 years at Tulsa, 2nd round and the Elite 8. Different coaches, Bill Self mostly there, had a lot of success. And he said sometimes to look back to those days of winning games keeps him positive battling through the rebuilding process now.
Well, it does, because you have to have somebody who understands it. It's one thing to bring in somebody who is just ready to go and think they're going to have instant results, but it's through the adversity and the building of it. And really what it comes down to is, sure, you'd like to win as quickly as you can, but if you build a good base, then it will stay with you. There's staying power with that within a program.
Takes time.
Oh, look at Blair.
Hustling. Ramon thought about a 3. Always patient Pittsburgh on offense. Rarely a bad shot for a Jamie Dixon team. They just don't rush it. It just doesn't happen much.
They're willing to go deep into the shot clock. They're willing to set screens and play unselfish basketball. And what happens is you win a lot.
Sure do. Blair had it stripped though by his buddy, DJ Kennedy, who can't convert, but jammed in by Evans on the follow.
Well, it was very close to a ball that was sitting on the rim still, but it may have just kicked out just enough to finish it off.
You just know there'll be text messages flying about that. DJ Kennedy, a longtime best friend. They say they're like brothers, pretty much grew up in the same house from Pittsburgh. Benjamin Hanks can't hit, tip not there. Keith Benjamin in there battling. He took some stitches in his right hand in that loss to Cincinnati last week. 5 between his ring finger and middle finger on the right hand.
Blair holding on to it just a touch too long, and then it's off to the races for St. John's. Nice little shift. Oof. I'm not so sure that ball got off.
It was close.
Looked like a half a pumpkin sitting up there, didn't it?
Biggs can't hit. Here's Evans on the other looking for another 2, and he's fouled on the way up. So to finish that story about Blair and Kennedy, they played high school basketball together at Shenley High in Pittsburgh. Last year won a state championship over Chester High. Game was played at State College at the Penn State campus, 78-71. They won 3 city titles together. Both families have driven the 7-8 hours, what is that, from Pittsburgh to come watch the game. And as DeJuan said today, we're just like blood brothers. This is such a big game for us. First time they've met, Jim, head-to-head since grade school. They've always been on the same team until now.
It's a great story. Yeah. It's unbelievable, too. You know, some other notables from that high school. Maurice Lucas, Portland Trailblazer, assistant coach now, but a great NBA career. And here's one for you. Wrestling legend Bruno Sammartino.
Ooh, how about Andy Warhol?
There you go, another one.
I mean, legend of the arts, right?
That's it.
Missed there for Evans. There is talk in Pittsburgh that school actually may get shut down. It's old and needs some refurbishing. And many people are trying, trying to raise the funds to save Shenley High School, which is only about a mile from the Pitt campus. So Juan Blair and DJ Kennedy grew up in the shadows of Pittsburgh stars ahead of them, like Jerome Lane and the guys we saw in that highlight earlier.
Look at Booth here. Just a pest, and that's a positive way to express how he plays the defense out front.
Takes for Young, pressure man-to-man here for St. John's.
Yeah, it's much better, too. The attention span much better on the defensive end.
Benjamin at strip. Evans got a hand on it. Little no-look pass from Blair. Here comes Booth. Evans right between the wickets, went 5-hole on him. And it's a turnover against St. John's. Well, Ramon has plenty of family and friends in the stands tonight, as was the case earlier this year when they defeated Duke in that nationally televised game. Cook got hurt that night. Ramon hanging and hitting.
Well, that's a difficult shot to send that floater through the middle of the floor. Good hands by Benjamin at the other end.
Was nice recovery defense. Keith Benjamin. This morning at the shoot-around, he had some tape between the middle and the ring finger on his right hand. Don't see it now after taking the stitches last week. Ramon thought about a 3 this time. Here's Malik Booth. Kennedy thinking 3. The lefty will kick it out. And regain outside the arc. There's about 5 to go in our first half. As you might expect, nationally ranked Pitt has a lead. Continuing their excellence without 2 of their star players. Mike Cook, Levance Field out. Look at Young. That's one reason. Malik Booth, the freshman, tried to take it in on the experienced Sam Young, who said, no, sir.
Well, the small guy could break you down from the outside and generally neutralize the size advantage. But look at Young's reaction to that. The ability to stay with the small guy who's quicker and also stay away from him enough not to foul him on that rejection.
Sam Young, a man of many talents. You've probably seen his piano playing. He did that for a nationally televised game. He was inspired by his brother, who is blind. Sam wears number 23, big Michael Jordan fan growing up. Got MJ's jersey number. And he's also an excellent gymnast. I mean, talking about versatile.
Yeah.
Did some gymnastics routines for the Pitt coaches when he went to Pittsburgh on his recruiting trip because they took him through the gym that had some gear there. Well, that's got to be a first. A backflip and all this stuff. Do the vault, whatever.
Well, I guess on that block there was a little gymnastic talent coming out right there, I guess.
Tell you what.
Well, I wasn't really strong in gymnastics.
No, that wasn't my thing either. But you could jump. You played hoops, so you could jump.
Well,
35, well, yeah.
Limited.
Right. 35-inch vertical leap for Sam Young. That's what a talented athlete.
I was just about 30 inches short of that.
To be exact.
Yeah.
9 turnovers against St. John's here first half. That's not a number Coach Roberts will be proud of. In the locker room, team averages about 16 a game. Here's Young right side. As that fake move looks like he almost takes the pivot foot off the ground, but doesn't. Benjamin thinking 3. Rattles out. Loose ball, Banks.
And those are just the problems that St. John's cannot afford against this Pitt team. You know, Pitt hits the offensive glass. It's one of their strong points is the rebounding margin differential. And a nice little pickup there by Banks to finish it off. And that's a strength, as I mentioned. They're number 11 in the country, Pitt is, with a rebounding margin, 8.5 plus. So, boy, when they shoot the ball, you must find body first, especially if that shot's taken 7 feet and further out. Body first. If not, if it's shorter than that, forget about boxing out. Go move your feet and get the ball.
Tyrell Biggs, junior from Nanuet, New York, does complete the 3-point play. Pitt 7-0 advantage and second chance points in this game. So they have been tough on the offensive glass. Larry Wright, he's a 3-point threat, shoots more than 40%. And so far, not any long-range game going for St. John's beyond that one. There's 10 now for Mason Jr. He leads all scorers. Ramon has 9 for Pitt to lead the way. He handles here. Inside, 4 to go. First half. Brown 3 for a long one.
Well, it's just real easy Pitt basketball just then. Well designed, nothing fancy. You set a little middle screen right at the free throw line and have a shooter pop out looking for a shot.
Mason Jr. get the feeling watching him. He wants to take charge here. The freshman Kennedy in amongst the trees, had it blocked away.
Well, they're not real big in terms of the Pitt lineup, but they stay with you upstairs.
Look out! Other end, Gilbert Brown, the flush for 2. Pitt, its largest lead at 13. Thanks to 5 straight points from Gilbert Brown, up and away.
And here's once again the patience, the unselfishness, and a little mixture of running the ball up the floor for Pitt. They're tough in their half-court sets, but they get you sleeping a little bit defensively. You don't get back. They will take it in transition and make you pay.
Another fab freshman in the Big East this year from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. 32 minutes, 8 points, 4 boards against Cincinnati in the Panthers' last game. He's got a 38-inch vertical leap. Didn't play last year because of a medical redshirt, several injuries. This Pitt team is loaded with some serious talent, and 2 of their stars aren't playing in Cook and Fields because of injuries. Let's take a look now at our Select Stats, brought to you by Select Sector Spiders. Field goal numbers. Panthers looking good, despite the fact there's Levance Fields, who's not in action tonight. They're thinking sometime in March for his return.
The number's not bad for St. John's there either, really, when you think of it.
They shoot 42.5% for the year coming in. Evans to the goal. Chance for a 3-point play. Sean Evans.
Nice set. Nice call by Norm Roberts to come out and make sure they get a little action going towards the basket. Here's your slip cut, and off he goes.
Red Storm trying to stay alive here and win its second Big East game of the season.
Definitely the best cars and trucks. Definitely the best prices. Definitely the best service. No doubt about it. It's definitely Barrel. Definitely worth the trip.
A year ago, St. John's at the Garden 5-7 record. They played such teams as Maryland and Texas in the non-Big East conference schedule. Lost to Marquette in the first round of the tournament after a pretty good year for Norm Roberts' team. Coming up, our halftime report. The Big East Conference Wire will tell you about the player and rookie of the week in the conference. Oppenheimer Funds Big East Coaches Spotlight on Jamie Dixon of Pitt, and first half highlights as well. One shot for Evans, trying to complete the 3-point play. He cannot do that.
I like that call. That's a carry. You put the hand underneath the basketball like that and get an advantage out of it. Point of emphasis for the officials this year. A little bit last year also, but picking up on it. Jamie Dixon just kind of question. Yeah, you're right.
Are you sure about that?
That's the motion.
He's got to work the officials. That's his job.
I know. He's smiling over there now, though.
He hands off the right.
Jamie, he's still smiling over there, Jamie. He's like describing what he thought happened, but he knows what happened over there on the carry.
They always do, right?
Yeah.
Ramon is hit by right. Larry had missed the 3 on the other end for St. John's. That is his first foul of the night. Here it comes back in. Tyrell Biggs will take a seat next to Jamie Dixon on the Pittsburgh bench. And the big guy, Thomas Yesalonis, returns for St. John's.
One thing I like about both of these coaches, too, Dave, is that when their guys come out, you know, regardless of whether they've played really well or not, they take the time to go over to them and to acknowledge when they're coming out of the game. A lot of times you see at different levels, you know, a guy comes off the floor, whether he's played well. It's easy when the guy's played well. When he's played not so well, to have him put his head down and walk by you. So that's the time you have to go out and be confident with the kid and get in his head and say, listen, I'm coming back to you. Get ready to come back on the floor. And both of these guys do a terrific job of that.
Always helps when that happens as a player.
Oh, yeah.
Feel like you're doing, at least you're trying out there. Mason gets a roll. That's a shooter's touch for Anthony Mason Jr.
Yeah, those are the ones, if you start getting those types of nights, you can kind of propel those into a bigger night than normal for you. So Anthony Mason Jr. starting to get a little warmed up.
Got a game high 12. Young, that patented move where he goes on the pump fake. I think he's going to travel every time, but he doesn't.
It's a nice move. He just no finish on that one.
Right. Can't hit the finger roll. Here is Malik Booth. Getting a lot of playing time first half for St. John's. Mason Jr. long 3. Wow. Almost beyond the NBA arc.
Yeah, well, that's what happens mentally there from a shooter's perspective. You hit that one shot previous to that one where you get a real friendly, let's call it a lucky bounce.
It was.
But as a shooter, you're thinking, hey, the ball just went in, so now I'm hot. Let's go for it.
7-0 Red Storm run here. 15 for Mason Jr. It's first 3 of the night hit by St. John's. Young other end, left-handed move, and the stuff.
Once again, that freeze move to get it started, and then uses that explosive move to the left-handed dunk that trip.
Best way to describe that, explosive. You hit that exactly right, Jim. Wow, what a move. First step. Aggressive defense here. He's kind of slapping it. Mason Jr.
He's just trying to slow him down a little bit. Young, trying to get into his head a bit, smacking him like you mentioned.
Rob Thomas into the game for the first time for St. John's as well. A lot of bodies tonight for the Red Storm. Right, a good move. Got by Benjamin. Can't hit the floater. Is partially blocked. And here's Ramon to Pitt. And Wright got just nailed and spilled in front of the Pitt bench. On the other end, Benjamin converts a 3.
Another example of how Pitt can come down the floor in a hurry for you. You know, you think of them as a defensive rebounding team, which they are, half-court set, but the transition has been friendly to them so far this half.
And senior Benjamin, first 3 of the game for him. He's really emerged with Levance Fields going down with that stress fracture of his foot. He was out indefinitely. Mason Jr. crossover dribble. And some contact. Gilbert Brown picks up the foul.
And here's that crossover. Little hesitation, then here's the explosiveness to the move that we talked about, to be able to finish with that left crossing over middle of the lane. And the other part of that, I guess you have to complete it, Dave, and say, where's that offside, weak side help by St. John's there, which was not there in the middle of the floor again.
Yeah, non-existent.
Yeah. Thomas
is out. Kennedy comes back in, as does Paris Horn, the freshman, number 23. Mason Jr., Jim, big game tonight, 15.6 of 7 from the floor with a couple rebounds. Stepping up for the Storm. His dad now lives in Chicago, comes to a lot of Anthony Jr.'s games. Anthony Jr. raised by his mom in Tennessee, but now dad's very active in his life. Final moments of the half. Here's Ramon. Crossover. Floater. A little too strong for Ronald Ramon. Blair hand on the rebound. And there's the horn. "20 minutes complete. St. John's, a nice late spurt by Anthony Mason Jr. Finished with 15 in the first half, but too much of that. Great ball work, good defense, and finishes for the Pitt Panthers like that from Gilbert Brown. 38-27 at the break.
Okay, listen up, people.
Chevy, best-selling cars and trucks in Pittsburgh for the last 9 years.
Welcome back. We're at halftime to the world's most famous arena in New York City, Madison Square Garden. It's Big East Conference basketball, Pitt and St. John's. Now let's take a look at the Big East Conference Wire. The Big East Player of the Week from Villanova has got to be Scotty Reynolds, who led the Wildcats to a 2-0 week for head coach Jay Wright by averaging 23 points, grabbing 4 rebounds and 2 steals per game in a 10-point win at Syracuse Saturday. Scored a game-high 25, grabbed 6 rebounds, and made 4 steals. Earlier in the week, he was great as well. Had 21 points in a 76-69 win over DePaul for the season, averaging a team-best 17.5 points a game and 4.2 assists. Scotty Reynolds. Jeremy Hazel of Seton Hall chosen the Big East Rookie of the Week. He led Big East players in scoring last week, averaging 25.5 points, 3 steals per game, while shooting 13 of 25 from three-point range. In a pair of wins for head coach Bobby Gonzalez, scored a career-best 29 points to help the Pirates overcome a 14-point second-half deficit in a 92-82 win against Louisville, then 22 in Seton Hall's win by 10 over USF. What a week for Jeremy Hazel of Seton Hall, joining Scotty Reynolds as Player and Rookie of the Week in the Big East Conference. And now let's check in on some scores this week in the Big East Conference. Syracuse lost a heartbreaker Monday in D.C. against Georgetown when Johnny Flynn's last-second three was in and then went out. And Georgetown won it in overtime. Syracuse in the near upset on the road. Roy Hibbert, a big game, 15-9 for Georgetown. How about Villanova Rutgers, Jim? That's got to be the shocker, maybe the season. Fred Hill's team has not won the Big East yet.
Right, and they're desperately looking for some action. The rack must be rocking, though.
That WVU Marshall game is in Charleston, West Virginia, a neutral site about 60 miles from the Marshall campus in Huntington, West Virginia. So the standings, top of the board is Georgetown. You talk with the coaches from both teams. You watch a lot of Big East Conference ball, Jimmy. It's just so much parity. You just won't see a team like a Kansas, like a Memphis, run the table in this conference.
Exactly. It's just so difficult, so competitive, and I think, you look at the top of the standings, and I'd rather not look at, Georgetown and West Virginia for a moment, but take a look at the 3rd and 4th names on this list, Dave. Cincinnati and DePaul, both of them 4-2, 9-9 overall, but that has to be the early season statement that's being made with those 2 ball clubs right now in the Big East.
Now, there's some very big names we thought might be at the top of the list, right at the bottom in the 16-team Big East Conference this year, including Syracuse. Big injuries with Andy Routens and Eric Devendorf out. They are 3-4 in conference play. They lost 2 in a row and 4 of 5. Seton Hall is improving a bit, 12-6 overall. And Rutgers bidding for the big upset tonight.
Right, Seton Hall, they worked their game the other night against Louisville. A terrific win for Bobby Gonzalez and company. And you're right, some of those teams down at the bottom just trying to get on track. That's why this Rutgers game against Villanova is so important to them to get on track with the win on the left side of the column.
We've got much more coming your way from Madison Square Garden. 38-27 game. Pitt has a lead on the road against St. John's. Stay with us.
No other weekly financial.
Big East Conference rivals. Tonight's Big East Coaches Spotlight is brought to you by Oppenheimer Funds. Let's take a closer look at Pitt head coach Jamie Dixon. What a run it's been for him in now 5 years in the Steel City. 4 straight 20-win seasons. The first coach in school history to do that. Fastest to 100 wins in Pitt history. And twice he's brought the Panthers of the Big East to the Sweet 16, including a year ago before he lost out to his old friend and old mentor at Pitt, Ben Howland, now at UCLA. We'll have much more coming up from the Garden of New York City. It is halftime between Pitt and St. John's. Big East Conference basketball from the Big Apple. More on the way.
If it's your desire to become a chef, you can do it. If it's your dream to own your own restaurant, you can make it happen.
Well, in his 4+ years as head coach at St. John's, Norm Roberts' teams have knocked off ranked teams 5 times. 2 of those 5 have been against the Pitt Panthers. All 5 have come here at Madison Square Garden. We'll see if it happens again tonight. Down by 11, though, at the break. Welcome back, Dave Ryan, Jim Spanarkel with you. Anthony Mason Jr., a big first half. Jim had 15 points. If you're thinking upset, if it's number 6 for Coach Roberts in his tenure, Mason Jr.'s got to keep the roll going here.
He does. And the other guys have to chip in, obviously, and do some of the dirty work and the post-up play. But you're right. Mason Jr. has really got to be the guy, and he has been to this point. Guy who's sticking the jumpers, playing inside a little bit, pushing the ball down the floor. So he's given Norm Roberts a sensational first half.
But he's been the only real offensive threat for the Red Storm so far through 20 minutes. Let's check in with the PNC first half highlights.
And we'll take a look at Mason Jr. Comes out to the corner and hits that little jumper, little floater, but he also steps on an ankle, hurts himself a bit, but comes right back and gets into the middle of the lane. And here's where he gets that friendly bounce, which triggers his next trip down the floor for that longer shot. So the confidence was brewing for him. But on the other side, Pitt, we've talked about them steady, young, a guy who can shoot the ball from long range. He baits you to come out and guard him, then he drives right by you to deliver. And also Blair, another factor down deep early in this game, getting himself some touches down deep. I love the way he positions himself before the ball is even a pass away from him. So a terrific post-up effort, and he gives you a little bit of enthusiasm to go with it.
Only a freshman. Sam Young 8, DeJuan Blair 8. But Ronald Ramon, the senior guard, leads the way with Pitt. He has got 9 points in the first half. Panthers by 11, second half to come. Great nighttime view of the island of Manhattan. It was about 40 degrees today and sunny. Not balmy outside for January in New York City. Our Star Watch update. Sam Young 8 and 3 in the first half. And Anthony Mason Jr., Jim, really came to play with 15 points.
Sure did. Look at a 6 for 7 too, shooting the basketball. You know, you get that one friendly bounce and all of a sudden things start going in your favor. Let's see if he can continue that in the second half.
I don't see a lot of Eugene Lawrence. St. John's officials telling us it'll be Malik Booth instead. There's Burrell. Justin can't hit. On the follow. E.J. Kennedy. I like the injury bothering Lawrence.
I like that early decision too, Dave, to go down deep early. Start getting the ball in his hands a little bit. I think he's got to get him more active on the blocks and see what they can come up with.
Brown, a lot of contact, offensive foul. Gilbert Brown.
I don't know who's going to get credit for picking up the charge in the stats for the team, but both St. John's players, a good sign, stepping across to sacrifice the bodies.
Brown's second personal. So it's going to be in the hands of the freshman, Malik Booth from Queens. We check in with a high school reunion update as well. Kennedy just had a bucket for his 4th point. They played at Shenley High School together in Pittsburgh, won a state championship. The first state title won by a Pittsburgh City school since 1978. That happened last year. Just about a mile from the Pitt campus. They play against each other tonight. Fun to watch. Number 45 for Pitt, number 10 for St. John's. They're best friends. Justin Burrell from 15. Can't get that roll. Here's Evans with a rebound. Kicked out to Booth. Malik Booth, the freshman, has 2 off the glass.
You know, the key for him is just to play relaxed. I mean, it's a big spot for him to be in a game here. So you would think the pressure might get to him. But right there, that one play just showed me a little bit of confidence and relaxation in the drive to the basket there and not hurrying his shot.
Young, the entry pass. Blair was fouled before the shot.
Take a look at Booth down the other end of the floor. A little crossover and then the delivery. Composure right there, not charging into the defender.
Justin Burrell has got his 3rd foul, Jim.
Look at this post up. Blair very good at positioning himself.
Benjamin got the inbounds pass. A lot of contact with Kennedy. Tried to shoot and catch. On one motion there in the catch and shoot. Off the mark, but he will go to the free throw line. Benjamin, courageous effort we talked about last week in that loss at Cincinnati. 3 fouls on Burrell. Took some stitches in his hand, Jim. That's a shooting hand. He's got the tape on there now a little bit. Had more on it this morning. Another free throw. And he didn't want to come out of the game. The Pitt officials were looking around. They saw a trail of blood on the floor. And no one would admit to saying that's my blood. He had to come out, go to the locker room, and get stitched up. He didn't want to leave the game. That's why he didn't tell anyone. He was just trying to hold it so it stopped bleeding, but it was pretty bad. Needed 5 stitches, but he came back, played well. Almost hit a game-tying 3 late for Pitt in that loss at Cincinnati.
Yeah, it is amazing when you see the young players out there and the adrenaline starts flowing. You get hurt, and that's why a lot of guys do play through injuries because of the adrenaline. You find out the next day they really were hurt.
I'd say 5 stitches qualify.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kennedy outside the arc for Mason Jr. The big first half. Gonna get it going in half number 2. From 18, too strong. Ramon. Able to pull down the rebound. Long pass intercepted. Mason Jr. good anticipation. Nice recovery. Kennedy, the freshman, will have some free throws.
Good delivery there by Booth once again. Running the floor. St. John's trying to get their game on track a little bit. That floating pass down the other end of the floor allowed St. John's to convert this coming down. Here's the steal, here's the push, and watch Booth. He goes down, puts one dribble to the floor to force the defenders to react to him. You have to get somebody to react to you, so that will open up a seam because you take away a defender in the middle of the floor.
Wilbur Brown picked up his 3rd foul there. St. John's really had struggled from the free throw line. Missing 5 in a row. They're 2 for their last 7. So here's DJ Kennedy, other part of that dynamic duo, the high school squad in Pittsburgh. Their 4-year record, Jim, was 103-16 against Pittsburgh City League teams. They were 57-0. Kennedy and Blair, that's quite a 1-2 combo. But unfortunately for DJ, 0 for 2 on that trip to the free throw line. 2 minutes in, second half. Ramon crossover. He's quick. In the paint, Ronald Ramon. That's 2.
Boy, he really had to work his way that trip against Booth also. I mean, Booth is low to the ground, trying to flick away, and Booth's trying to time his dribble, Ramon's dribble, so as he catches it off the floor as it's going down to try to get a little strip steal. Not the best footwork by Ramon, but the end really composed to get his shot off.
Salonis is back in. Here's Booth, a freshman. Entry pass for Evans. Dribble it off his leg, though. Good hustle on the sideline. 10 to shoot. Under 8 to shoot. Booth launches a long 3. It's too strong. Heel to rim. Yes, Salonis a hand on it. And here comes the way to Juan Blair. Here comes Benjamin and Pitt. Between a leg dribble, Young able to hit from 10 feet.
You know, they're not the biggest guys in the world in terms of size, Young and Blair, but both of them fundamentally sound before that ball is really getting close to the pitching point of view in terms of the entry pass. They really do a great job of establishing position.
10 now for Young's second Panther to break into double figures along with Ramon. It's outside the arc, 50 to shoot. Mason Jr. And get on track in the second half as well. Get that feeling he wants to take over the game. Another 10 to shoot. Booth for Evans. Spin move for the freshman. Blocked. Tyrell Biggs got a big paw on that one. Here comes Benjamin 2-on-1 with Young. Keith Benjamin. He's strong. Mason Jr. with Kennedy. Forgot the ball. And the Red Storm resets here.
They had numbers too. They had a 3-on-2 break if Mason could have taken that ball down the middle.
This is the 100th anniversary of St. John's basketball. Great Garden moments for St. John's. We've seen one already. 2 more to go in our broadcast tonight. The top 3 we've come up with. 3 of the great ones, but there are so many. Here's Mason Jr. hanging, front iron. Comes away to the Juan Blair.
Biggs another factor defensively.
He's tough in there, you're right. On the trail, runs the floor. Wow. Thought there might be a whistle. There wasn't one. Looked around for a call that hit from 10 feet. And biggest lead for Pitt. And they've really opened it up here. 7-0 run. And a 14-point lead for the Panthers. Timeout called by the Red Storm. More great Garden moments with St. John's basketball. We'll bring it back to some of the all-time great moments they've experienced here. That's on the way from New York. St. John's in a lot of trouble now, down 14 to Pitt. St. John's legendary coach Lou Carnesecca brought the Red Storm to its last Final Four appearance back in 1985. Some other great moments in St. John's history. 83 Big East championship in this very building. St. John's against BC. John Garris hit a shot for the turning MVP, Chris Mullen. And the Johnnies were just too much. Down the stretch, they won that game 85-77. Just love watching the reaction of Louis Carnesecca. That is our second best moment. We've got 3 tonight. Number 1 still to come, Jim.
That it is, and just keep in mind that there are probably a couple of more than 3, but we just tried to pick a couple here to flavor the broadcast up a bit.
Can you believe it, Jim, that 2008 is the 25th anniversary of having the Big East tournament here at Madison Square Garden? It's been that long.
Wow. Man. Thank goodness we're not aging, you and I.
We're the only ones. Terrell on the spin. On the left low block, some contact. It was hit by Gary McGee, a 6'10 freshman. And we've got another timeout on the floor. Pitt in control here, going for their 16th win of this season. For head coach Jamie Dixon, more coming up. Earlier tonight, we saw that Jerome Lane smash the backboard, the 20th anniversary of that big stuff on the pass there from Sean Miller. We're also near another anniversary, Jim, 77 years roughly. First time St. John's played a game here at the Garden, January 19th, 1931. They beat CCNY 17-9 in an offensive thriller.
A barn burner.
A barn burner. Not perhaps the best offensive game of the 100th anniversary of St. John's basketball celebrated this year. You can log on to the website, get all sorts of information. And the all-century team voted upon by St. John's fans, and they'll be honored and announced in their last regular season game in March against West Virginia, right before that game takes place. That's all coming up, part of the festivities in Queens and here in Manhattan. Part of the turnaround, and a foul's called against Pitt.
One of the things that's interesting with the way Pitt plays their defense, too, they get a lot of deflections. They get the hand on the basketball a lot for Jamie Dixon's squad, in which they may not steal it every single time they do that, but what they do is they disrupt your offensive flow and continuity. It's really very, very impressive the way they do that.
McGee right out of the lineup. Gets the foul there. Here's the freshman, handles the offense here. Jordan Jean Lawrence re-aggravated that bruised knee. Hurt that against West Virginia in the Red Storm's last game. Turnover against St. John's. And that is their 10th of the night.
Trying to get the touches to Burrell on the blocks, which I like it, but you just have to get it delivered there. It's frustrating for a coach like Norm Roberts when he gets his big guy set up and you can't deliver the goods. Just a split second too late right there caused the turnover.
14-point deficit, turnover numbers. You see the average for St. John's. Nothing in the second half for Mason Jr. after lighting it up for 15 in the opening 20 minutes. He's their catalyst. Ramon for Benjamin, 10 to shoot. Floater for Benjamin, hits.
And he just continues to play great basketball. You know, taking advantage of the injuries that have occurred for Pitt. Still giving them step-up action. Nice little drive there and float to the basket with some strength behind it.
Senior, yet another outstanding basketball product from Mount Vernon High School. There is Mason Jr. Finally hits a shot. Ends a 9-0 Pitt run. 17 on the night for Mason Jr. Tyrell Biggs, 6 minutes in, second half. St. John's has lost 4 of its last 5. Trying to get on track at home. They've had a lot of success against Pitt over the years. Here's Kennedy against Young. Can't hit the lefty shot. And Benjamin on the recovery has the rebound for the Panthers.
Yeah, Booth was a factor defensively that last trip. He's picking up Benjamin.
Launching a long 3. It was way beyond the NBA arc.
You know, see, that's sometimes I think, you know, that's where the three-point line becomes a detriment to teams. I mean, there was an open path. We were looking right over his shoulder. I mean, he could have taken either 1 or 2 dribbles in for a 12-foot jumper or get right to the basket for a layup. So kind of, I think it just baits guys in to take bad shots every so often.
And this, of course, is the home of the New York Knicks in the NBA. You think maybe he saw that white line, thought that was the regular college arc? He was way out there.
Well, he was. And should have been looking at the basket to just drive it in.
Here's Kennedy looking for 3, too strong. Young had the rebound. Mason Jr. swipes it and puts it home.
Mason's doing his best to keep them alive here, St. John's. They got to get a couple stops and get other guys participating.
Up to 19 now for Mason Jr. 7 over his per game average. 30-second timeout called by Pitt. Jamie Dixon wants to talk it over with his team. Up by a dozen. Mason Jr. lighting it up in the first half. Just getting warmed up now, Jim, in half number 2.
And look where Mason is. He's out by the top of the key as this shot goes up, and look where he ends up. He floats to the middle. He tracks the basketball, gets a hand on it initially, gathers it in, and finishes it off. So he came from about 15, 17 feet away to make this play happen for him. So he's leading from a perspective of kind of selling it in terms of his play on the offensive glass, but not getting a whole lot of support from the rest of the St. John's team.
Anthony's season best is 22 points. second on the team in scoring and rebound a year ago. He had 8 double-figure games. He's hit double figures in the last 9 games this year. And Coach Roberts telling us this morning he's been a good scorer and rebounding really all year long. The ankle sprain cost him several games early. And the coach said, look, we're going to have to deal with those kind of injuries for the rest of the year. Once you have those ankle sprains, Jim, they just don't go away until you're in the offseason. You have a chance to rest for a long time.
That's it. 2 weeks of inactivity, you start to feel better. During the seasons, just doesn't come around. Yeah. Spend a lot of time in with ice buckets and heating pads and all sorts of contraptions nowadays.
Young on the cut. DJ Kennedy got a piece of him coming through. Good call by the officials.
If you don't make that cut that strongly, that was one of the things about Young coming off that screen. If you don't make it that strongly, you don't get that call.
He is explosive.
Yeah.
And at times we've seen that in this game tonight. Unfortunately, our cameras didn't capture it, but at halftime, he ran to the scores table directly across from us and hurdled it. He went over the scores table. We talked about that 35-inch vertical lead for Sam Young. It was amazing. He ran right into the locker room.
I wonder if Jamie Dixon caught that.
I don't know. Here he's driving with a left hand. Sam Young. Strong, athletic move. He's got a dozen.
Because if I were Jamie Dixon and I saw that, the first thing I would have said in that locker room is, that's the end of that. I know you can go off the floor.
Do it again.
Yeah. So all you need to do is hit a spilled beverage spot over there and you're done.
I wish I could have had a picture of the faces of the scores table members there as they saw Young soar over their heads. There's Mason Jr. soaring himself for another 2.
Just pretty much trying to carry this team right now. And what Norm Roberts is going to do is got to pick up with Wright, a little bit of pressure in the backcourt. Nice job. Ooh, he just reached in beforehand.
That one, Brad Wanamaker, the freshman, in again for Pittsburgh.
Timmy Higgins with the call. It's the correct one at half court. And here comes Young again. Watch the extension now. Gets it away from the defender so you can't strip him down low. And then when you get it by that point, you extend the arm out so they can't reach out and get it.
Young is not particularly demonstrative. He's not a loud guy. I don't hear him shouting and a lot of pointing at himself, but he is something to watch. Great athlete.
Here he comes off the screen again.
Yep. Panthers here outside the arc. Got that quickness. Got 2 more. Chance for a 3-point play. Case in point, Sam Young.
He's mixing it up too, isn't he? He's going left, he's going right, he's hesitating, he's using the strength, the combination, the drives. I mean, he's got the package working. Most improved player in this league to this point.
Boy, he sure does. The junior from Clinton, Maryland has been something. 4th best in the conference in scoring. Showing us why tonight with a great move to the basket. Chance for a 3-point play next.
Chevy, best-selling cars and trucks in Pittsburgh for the last 9 years.
Sam Young, 25 in the last 29 games, double figures coming in, make it 26 of 30, and 18 of 19 games, Jim. This season, he's been tough. So many different moves you talked about. The baseline we saw early in the game, then explosive drives to the basket.
Right, the left hand doing it one time and then mixing it up. Nice post up again in the middle of the lane. Another extension to the basket with the left. We've seen him do it to the right also. So, you know, it's a tough out when you can go a lot of ways.
And Baum is here. Watching Sam in person, he's got 14 tonight, making 15, completes the 3-point play. His career best, 28, set this year against Seton Hall. Biggest lead again for Pitt. I've said that a few times because it keeps expanding. Down to 15.
There was Mason's trying to keep St. John's in. A little defensive effort right there, but Young's answers have kind of counterbalanced what Mason has been doing.
Here he goes again for the basket. A lot of contact, no call. Gets the loose change and scores 2 more. Sam Young is just taking over this game.
That's kind of exemplifies how Pitt plays, doesn't it? You know, Mason's still firing him up, though, looking good with his jumpers. But then, you know, Young gets smacked on the way to the basket. There's contact, and does he look for a call? Does he complain? No, he just waits and finds the ball and puts it back up.
Mason Jr. Jim does have a career best 24 after that triple. That's his second 3 of the night. It's all Young. This is a 3-ball. Can you believe the run? Yeah, for Sam Young, it continues. He's now up to 20 points, doing it every which way.
Yeah, and just keeps answering Mason, too. That's the beauty of this, is that little crisscross there. But when they need him to answer, you know, St. John's is getting a nice lift by Mason. You think they'd be making a run. You look up, and Young just continues to be just superb down the other end. So under control. Look at this, just poised. You're not going to come guard me. You're waiting for me to drive. Guess what? I can shoot it a little bit too.
Boy, you sure can.
46% shooter from three-point range. So when you can shoot it from range and you can drive, that's what basketball is all about. It's pretty simple.
Got the complete package. 22 threes on the year. Mason Jr. another one. Oh, he's up to 27 tonight. His third three.
You could probably put a blindfold on these guys right now, the way they're shooting it.
It's been the Mason Jr. Sam Young show. Mason Jr. has the last 12 St. John's points. Young has the last 10 points for Pitt. Those two have completely taken this game over. Are there other guys on the floor or what?
We haven't really said many names.
We haven't had to.
And they're guarding one another down this end. I should say Mason guarding Young.
Benjamin pulls up the dribble. Tyrell Biggs halfway through second half tonight. Blair's not been a big factor. A good start. Got loose there. Snuffed away down low. Evans on the held defense. Got a large chunk of that shot on the way up from DeJuan Blair.
Now defensively, you don't bite on the fake and you get a little help from behind. It always works. Nice job there initially by Burrell to start the defensive effort, and then the finish up by Evans.
Wanamaker inbounds play. Hits from 15. First two of the night for the freshman from Philly, Brad Wanamaker.
When you're efficient and you're up, you know, you're now 16 and you're an efficient offensive team, you can just take your time to get Young.
Wow, little play. Lawrence back in the game quickly to steal. Young drives the other way. Can't hit that one. Has a rebound. And two more plus a foul. Sam Young continues this unbelievable stretch in the second half. Levance Fields loves it because his teammate is up to 22 for the night. Chance for a three-point play.
Boy, he's just playing at a different level, isn't he? I mean, going for the steals. And I like the fact he races this down, gets his feet in bounds, and now look what happens. He's got to push his body at it, but no, the play isn't over yet. He just continues to go after it.
He has 15 second half points, Jim. 23 for the game. Sam Young, the junior, team's leading scorer, showing us exactly why. And those stats you told us about, Jim, earlier tonight, the improvement from last year. He scored 7 points a game.
Right.
That was really Aaron Gray's team. Different style, certainly, with a big man in the post, a 7-footer. They went to the Sweet 16. This is a different style team this year, for sure. Just the way they rely more on the perimeter and the play of Sam Young in a different role.
They do, and the thing about it is that, you know, the beauty of college basketball is that there's always opportunities. You know, you think about injuries and graduations and guys leaving early for pro ball. You know, if you look for opportunities and you know how to play and you bide your time and keep working at it, you never know. And Pitt's a great example of that, I think. You know, all of these guys are obviously good players, but because of the injuries, a guy like Sam Young gets more pressure put on him, gets more opportunities, and you just never know where that's going to come with the injuries because you can't predict them usually.
Sam Young also had tendonitis, speaking of injuries, a year ago, so that may be one reason he wasn't quite as effective with the lower points per game, but he had a much different responsibility in this Pitt offense. Now it's his team. Clearly evident tonight by this outstanding second half from Sam Young. Lawrence is back in despite the knee problem on the left knee. Told you about that earlier. Hurt at West Virginia in the Red Storm's last game. A little high-low play. Justin Burrell. Kick out for Lawrence. The senior got hit high there by Brad Wanamaker. And the freshman commits the foul. That's his third.
And Jamie Dixon laughing again down the other end. Smile at him saying, move your feet, move your feet. Don't use your head.
Use your head for thinking.
Yeah.
Not for contact. Lob. Mason Jr. can't convert. Here comes Pitt the other way. Wanamaker to kick out to Benjamin. He'll reset. Standard patient Pitt offense. What do they do now with Sam Young if it's St. John's defensively, Jim? What's the answer?
You go maybe buy him a hot dog and a soda and ask him to go have a little concession time or something, because he's just, you know, I don't know what to do with him other than the fact you got to deny him the basketball as much as possible.
Benjamin picked up a second foul, their offensive foul. That's why St. John's gets it back, and you see the Red Storm led by Mason Jr. tonight. Far and away the offensive threat of the game. Wow. Evans 4 off the bench. Burrell has 4. Kennedy has 4, and that's it. Here's Sean Evans. Burrell had it stripped. He came in as the team's leading scorer. Baseline hits. Talks about him in the pregame. It's being a big key to St. John's success. Nearly 12 a game, but he's not been a factor tonight.
Yeah, because Mason has really taken over here, and especially in the second half, continuing his fine play. So, and Burrell may just, you know, they need to get him established down on the blocks, and they tried just then to get him on the blocks, but it kicked out to 15.
And lost the handle. Mason matching up on him man-to-man. Here's Biggs in the corner. Under 10 to shoot for Pitt. Firmly in the command tonight at the Garden. Benjamin. That is a 3-ball. Step back, nail it. And another largest lead of the night for Pitt, thanks to Benjamin's second triple.
Boy, that's the sword in the side right there, isn't it? Holy smokes. That was like no time left on the shot clock, and he kind of floats backwards to get that shot off. So showing the confidence that he has in his game as of late.
Wow. Panthers on fire from the floor in the second half. 11 of 15 field goal attempts after intermission. Everything going right, including this 3 from the senior Keith Benjamin. Looks like the final dagger. Pitt in great shape on the road at the Garden, up 20. Did you know that Pitt appeared in the first ever nationally televised game from the Garden? 1940 against Fordham, and they won that one 57-37. How about another great Garden moment? Jim, it's number 1 on our list tonight for our broadcast, and it's against my alma mater, Syracuse. Unfortunately for Syracuse Orange fans, against St. John's, 86, Ron Rowan hit that shot, and Dwayne, the Pearl Washington from Boys and Girls High School, Brooklyn, New York, blocked away by St. John's at the buzzer. Walter Berry had the rejection, and what a celebration from Lou Carnesecca. Willie Glass celebrating high atop the rim there. Big East championship for St. John's, brought to us by Champion. It's how you play. So there are the 3 moments, Jim. What do you think?
I want to know how you let producer Neil Gallo pick the Syracuse losing for you.
It might have been set up, right?
I guess I had something to do with it too, huh?
Willie Glass did spend a lot of time over the rim. Remember how he could jump? What an athlete. He's a great team. St. John's 186. Just 3 of some of the great St. John's moments here at the Garden. Of course, there are many more. Those up for debate. It's the 100th year of St. John's basketball. An amazing history of this program, both in Jamaica, Queens, and here in Manhattan. Not much to remember tonight, though, for the Storm. Way down, 65-46. Here's Ramon. Over 7 to go, second half. And John's hoping to avoid falling to 1 and 5 in the conference. Young, again, that fake. This time the pass. Blair will finish. DeJuan Blair on a good pass from Sam Young.
Well, Young is just showing us it all right now. I mean, he understands that he's shooting the ball well, and he knows the defenders are thinking that he can shoot it from there. Boy, that was a terrific, terrific basketball play in terms of the ball fake and the one dribble delivery.
Mason Jr. trying to continue his hot second half. Can't. Misfires a 3. Here's Ramon. Quickly up court, Benjamin. I know he has a range.
Yeah, but they'll give you they'll fake you out a little bit here, like they're in a hurry, and then they settle up into their half-court set.
Tyrell's big spins. Can't hit that one. Evans a rebound. Great way to describe a partner, like they're in a hurry, but they're not. They're patient. Here's Booth. Malik Booth hits. Second field goal in the second half for the freshman from New York.
St. John's is trying to get them into a rattle-type game to force them a little pressure right now to get them to come down the floor, take a quicker shot than what they would like to, but they're just methodically taking time off the clock right now. We're coming down on 6 minutes even almost.
They're coming in 15-3 overall, 3-2 in the Big East off that loss to Cincinnati. Young, short on 3 this time. Blair kept it alive. Ramon for Young. Again, that fake. Gets to the hoop. Reverse layup blocked away. Sean Evans, nice stuff.
Well, he's going to take the first bait, but he didn't take the second.
Kennedy, other end, misfires on the 3-ball.
Seeing at this pace also what Pitt does to you, there really aren't that many possessions left if they're going to take this much time off the clock and be effective with it.
Blair got free, right lower block. Jamie Dixon applauds that entry pass. And the freshman will shoot 2. Burrell has his 4th foul of the night. So it looks like DeJuan Blair will get the best of his buddy, A.J. Kennedy. The two spoke for a while this morning when Pitt left the floor after the shoot-around. They've been sending text messages, one more for Blair here. And phone calls have been going on for months now leading up to this game. And the bragging rights will stay with the Panthers for a while. Kennedy thought about going to Pitt. They went to the Shenley High School so close to the Pitt campus. But with scholarship availability and what Pitt needed in terms of personnel, Kennedy didn't fit the bill as much as Blair did. And DeJuan said today, boy, I wish we had gone to another school, maybe together. West Virginia, Kansas State. Some others had offered so we could play together in college. Mason Jr. other end, big stuff.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Booth is also doing a pretty nice job here. The youngster coming out, that was a terrific delivery.
29 for Mason Jr. game high. Continues his big night.
You can't do that, I know that.
Malik Booth, a little shove there on Young. And Sam, the veteran, Booth, the freshman. Malik will be the guilty party there. So the high school reunion matchup number we've been tracking tonight. About 100 family and friends made the long drive from Western Pennsylvania. The Blair and Kennedy families and friends to watch this game tonight, the reunion game. First, they played against each other since elementary school. They've been teammates through middle school, high school. They won a state championship together in the city of Pittsburgh. Young misses there. Burrell lost the rebound. Ramon inbound here over 5 to go. In the second half, McGee back in the game. Young in the corner, that's 3.
You're not getting tired of calling his name, partner, are you?
Up to 26. 3 threes on the night. And 18 points in the second half for Sam Young. Burrell got the entry pass at the free throw line. 13 in and out. Mason Jr. strong offensive rebound. And a fresh 35 for the Storm. And just make that a fresh 5. That's all he needs. A few seconds to pull it out and shoot. And Ramon has the rebound. He's fouled by St. John's.
Well, no technical foul, I think, right now. Who's it on? Booth?
What a second half for Sam Young. DJ Kennedy was the guilty party on the foul. And Malik Booth, the freshman, did pick up the technical on that little exchange after the rebound came down. Well, Ramon's trying to figure out who the free throw shooter should be here. We'll have 2 free throws on the foul itself from Kennedy and then the technical as well. There's a frustration, Jim, really starting to boil over. A young team here just trying to get it going, and they've been outmanned tonight.
Yeah, but Booth isn't in on that play right there. I think that came from about the half court where Booth was.
Yeah, Tim Higgins teed him on. So here come the 2 free throws for Ramon on the foul. He may stay out there as their top free throw shooter. 12 points for him on the night. Senior from the Bronx. Hits both on the foul. On the tech, rather. Now the foul's coming up.
Now you get that rhythm. You just shot 2 of the more difficult ones by yourself out there. I won't say anything because I don't want to jinx him.
Has another third all-time in Pitt history in free throw percentage, 82.4. All-time leader is Sean Miller, now the coach at Xavier.
Well, if you watch him, every single shot of the 4 is exactly the same, though.
That's right.
Even though that last one missed.
Yeah,
that's the
pretty good trip, though, 3 of 4.
Yeah, and that's how you shoot free throws well. You do the same thing over and over again.
Mason Jr. for Burrell, nearly walked. A left-hand shot, too strong off the glass. Here's Booth, the freshman. Mason Jr. got a little out of control, tried to drive and feed to DJ Kennedy. And a turnover again against Coach Roberts' team. Down 23 here with just over 4 to go, second half. Looks like another impressive win for Pitt. Trying to get through these games without their star guard, Levance Fields, who may return sometime in March. They're hoping for the Big East tournament. And I'm not sure they're going to need him right now. The way they're playing, Ramon hits the floater on the baseline.
Well, how about the number 250 for St. John's? I mean, they give up, Pitt does 63 a game. And they, you know, generally if they hold you under 70 over the years, they've had terrific numbers. But, you know, this is just a clamp down with the 50 points so far with just under 4 to go.
Let's take a look at our big stop of the game, brought to you by Cooper Tires. Don't give up a thing.
Well, we've talked about Sam Young at the offensive end. Here he is at the defensive end with this stop. And, boy, it's just, he out of position just a little bit, but recovers in a hurry to get that left arm up there for Booth, who thought he had 2.
He thought wrong.
He did. Good point.
Impressive game for Sam Young tonight. 26 points. We saw that defensive play as well. What I like about him the most, Jim, is that he's not an outspoken guy. You don't see him the chest thumping. He's not got his fingers up in the air when he runs down after a jam or anything. I mean, he's quiet out there. He's just soft-spoken. He does the job. He scores a lot of points and goes back to play defense.
Yeah, I think that's one of the keys there. He just gets the job done. Simple. You know, he's flashy at times, so it's not like he's not a flashy player, but he's doing it with some flash, but he's not selling it from the standpoint of showboating with it. So a terrific player.
Sure is. Pitt's going to move up to 4-2 in conference play now. The team to beat is Georgetown. And Pitt did beat Georgetown on Monday. Upset win over the Hoyas. That was Coach Thompson's first Big East loss of the year. So Pitt went up in the rankings, one poll, 2 spots, despite losing to Cincinnati the 1-1 week. And another wild season in the Big East. 16-team conference, a lot can happen, and there are no gimmies. We saw Villanova struggling with Rutgers earlier tonight. Burrell lost the handle on the baseline. Timeout on the floor. 3:31 stands between Sam Young and Pitt's 16th win of this season. Looking good tonight. Tonight's game is brought to you by Pontiac, official performance machines of the NCAA. By Select Sector Spiders. Start weaving a stronger portfolio today. Visit us on the web at sectorspdrs.com or call 1-800-THE-MX. By Champion, it's how you play. And by Advance Auto Parts, we're ready in advance. Busy, bustling New York City. Times Square is a few blocks uptown from where we are here at 34th and 7th. Madison Square Garden in New York. Things looking very good for Pitt. Not so good, though, for Villanova, Jim Spanarkel. How about this score? Looks like Fred Hill's Scarlet Knights will win their first Big East game of the year.
Well, congratulations to them if it holds out, which it does look like a, wow, the rack must be cooking right now.
I think so. It's really got to be special for Fred Hill, former assistant to Jay Wright at Villanova, helped lead that program in the Sweet 16. Had a Wanamaker on the move there, trying to hit his teammate, and Gary McGee can't do it. And Kennedy lost the handle on the other end for St. John's. I covered the Syracuse-Rutgers game last week up at the Carrier Dome at Syracuse. And Fred Hill and Norm Roberts are kind of similar in that they're trying to rebuild programs that were broken when they came in.
They are, and it does take a while. I mean, it's you got to get a couple of good players to set the foundation, and then maybe you get a marquee guy to slide under there the 3rd or 4th year, 5th year, you got it going. So it's difficult, though, especially, let's face it, in this league, you need more than 1 or 2 to really move from the bottom of the pack to the middle of the pack.
It's just too good a conference.
Yeah.
Right. Burrell rattles out on it.
Yeah, never mind getting to the top 5 or 6, you know.
Benjamin to Wanamaker. About 2.5 to go here, second half. Tyrell big spin move. Left low block on Burrell.
And as Pitt always knows, the clock is their friend right now with 15 seconds on the shot clock.
Hit from McGee, just scored a moment ago, came right to him on the loose change. That by Booth, nice effort, Biggs.
Going to bring that back out.
Over Brown to Biggs, baseline, top of the backboard there. And St. John's gets another try at it. Mason Jr. feeding this time. Rob Thomas couldn't handle it. And here comes some wholesale changes for St. John's. Empty the bench here. Second foul on McGee. Team over the second limit tonight in the second half. One more for Kennedy.
St. John's number 23, Paris Horn, number 15, Jelly Coker.
Jelly Coker is back into the game. Mike Cavateo comes in, first time appearance for him in this one. One more here for Kennedy. One of the subs getting some playing time here in the late going. Tim Fry also playing here for Pitt. He's a freshman. 6'4" guard. Right the intercept. Kennedy the other way with the left has two.
This is where guys who don't get a chance to play all that much, it's fun to see them come out and at least get an opportunity in Big East competition.
Wanamaker all the way. And that blocked away. Jelly Coker on the rejection. St. John's on the move. Paris Horn. A freshman from Middletown, Delaware. Has a bucket on the scoop to the hoop. Just over a minute to go. Long range shot. Tim Fry off the Pitt bench. Gets in and puts it right up. Why not, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Rob Thomas on the drive for St. John. Some contact, and he'll shoot two. Let's take a look now at a game-changing performance brought to you by Pontiac. Got to be Sam Young, Jim. Second half especially just took this game over. And a game high for Pitt, 26.
Surprise, surprise. We've seen him do a lot of different things with this game-changing performance with drives to the left, jumpers. Just a brilliant game for him.
Mike Cavateo will come back in for St. John's. And the late going here. Benches basically emptied by the respective head coaches. As Thomas hits the free throw. You see, he doesn't look particularly happy now, Sam Young. Yeah, whatever. We're at the office, no big deal.
That's it.
Just no emotions. Steady player, one of the tops in the Big East Conference. Under 45 seconds left, and McGee is fouled. Larry Wright got a big chunk at him on the way up. Larry McGee came in, had a big game against South Florida. 6 points, 4 rebounds, 12 minutes when the Panthers really needed a boost. And that game earlier this year, a 13-point win in Tampa back on January 9th. Back to the drawing board for St. John's. As Coach Roberts told us today, Jim, after the team's shoot around, rebuilding during the season, we talked about that. In this conference, almost impossible.
Yep, you got that right.
Too many good teams, right?
Yeah,
Misfire.
You just have to try to keep the kids' confidences all up, and it's difficult. Because this is a pretty good pasting they've taken tonight from Pitt.
Rebound pulled down by Jelly Coker. Horn the pass, and Thomas got that feed, but first Paris Horn was fouled on the way up. That's something Coach Roberts said also to us today, Jim, about trying to keep the players in the right frame of mind. It's not easy to do. You lose so many games like this. We see Pitt A nice little run here at the Garden despite being 0 for their last 3 against St. John's. They've had a lot of success, including that Duke game this year. The Lavansfield last second game winner and a Big East tournament title in the mix there in 2003. But what Coach Roberts tells his St. John's players, think about the positive things you did.
Right.
And tomorrow's a new day. We can't linger. Watch the game film and then you move on.
Exactly. And yeah, well, that's all you can do at this particular point and continue to work on some of the things. You know, the turnovers tonight, the Pitt team deflected a lot of passes that we talked about. So back to the drawing board, I guess you can say. Keep working at it.
Here's Fry. Last seconds for Pitt. Coach Dixon does not want them to hoist up another shot, and that'll do it. 81-57, the final. Impressive game for Jamie Dixon's Pitt Panthers. For Jim Spanarkel and the entire ESPN Plus crew, it's Dave Ryan saying so long. For more, log on to ESPN Plus, ESPN-Plus.com. The proceeding has been an exclusive presentation of ESPN Regional Television, the worldwide leader in collegiate sports.